Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. My name is Bryson Carver, and for a Thursday after the Super Bowl, we've actually got a pretty packed show for you guys tonight. We got a good one. We got some NBA, got some NFL, we got some of the biggest brands in sports to talk about, the Cowboys and the Lakers, and at the end of the show, I'm going to discuss Giannis a little bit, and I got to say, it's getting almost a little bit LeBron-esque. Remember when LeBron was going through the NBA? Around those Miami years and those last 4 years in Cleveland, and he was putting up ridiculous numbers, and people weren't even mentioning him for MVP. I feel like Giannis is getting that same treatment right now. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show, so kind of a best for last in some ways, but a lot to discuss today. I was just kind of thinking about the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers trade that was done last Thursday. It's been a week since the deal was done. And the only guys that we've seen from that deal that have played are, I believe, Paul Millsap played a little bit for Philadelphia. And then in Brooklyn, you had, obviously, Seth Curry, who's been really good. He's averaging 20 points a game, albeit in 2 games with the Nets, but he's been playing well. And then you got, obviously, Andre Drummond, who's doing his thing. So, and by the way, Andre Drummond's from Brooklyn. Or I don't know if he's from Brooklyn, but I know he's from New York. So in a way, he's kind of coming home. But I wanted to do a segment on this last week, the day before, or I'm sorry, the Friday before the Super Bowl. But I was like, it's the Super Bowl. I want to give it its own day, give it its shine. It's the Super Bowl after all. So I was going to postpone it till today because I think there are 2 common viewpoints about James Harden after this trade went down. And frankly, I think both have merit. I really do. So there's sort of one portion of NBA fans, I'm sure you could throw in execs, other players in the league that hold the sentiment that James Harden should have won it out of Brooklyn. I mean, I get where they're coming from. If Kyrie was my teammate, yeah, it'd drive me a little crazy too. I mean, when you look at, obviously, the vaccine stuff, and you got all this nonsense with Kyrie. He'll randomly skip games and this and that, and you're like, crap, dude, do you want to win or not? I'm here to win a championship. Are you? And look, we can argue all day about the vaccine mandate and all this and all that in New York. The point is, the bottom line is, the fact is, that's what the mandate is right now. Will it change? I have no idea. Adam Silver talked about it. Eric Adams talked about it. No clue if that's going to change or not. What I do know is that's the current law. It's also the same current law in San Francisco. And Andrew Wiggins, though he didn't want to get the vaccine, said, you know what? Okay, I don't want to get this, but boy, playing with the Warriors will be really beneficial for my career. And I got a legit shot at a championship. Today, Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter. Kyrie Irving is yet to play his 15th game. So I get James's frustration with Kyrie because he's saying, I got vaccinated. KD got vaccinated. Most of the team, actually all of the team except for Kyrie, got vaccinated. We're ready to go. Let's go win a championship. Do you want to win? Do you? And so the people saying James just won it out from under Kyrie, I get it. I mean, I've always said Kyrie Irving's a little bit, or not a little bit, in a lot of ways like Aaron Rodgers. The only, edge I'll give Kyrie is A, he didn't lie about his vaccine status, and B, at least he cares about social justice. I don't know if Aaron does, but that's neither here nor there. I get James's frustration with Kyrie. But let's flip the coin. And this is the side I associate myself with James Harden. Not to dismiss the other side because it has merit. But the other side says, this is yet another star teammate that James Harden has not gotten along with. Okay? Go back. Let's start. We're talking about James Harden as a superstar, by the way. We're not talking about his days in OKC when he was a great sixth man and certainly was on his way to becoming a great player. But when he was playing with Russ and KD, he was never going to be James Harden. He was never going to lead the league in scoring, in all likelihood. So he goes to Houston. He's the man. And they go out and get Dwight Howard in James's second year there. Yet after 3 years, Dwight couldn't wait to get out of there. He opted out of the last year of his deal. I can't play with James Harden anymore. Can't stand him. Okay. And so a couple of years later, the Rockets trade for CP3, Chris Paul. They're like, okay, James just almost won an MVP the year before, got a okay roster to the 3 seed, and won a playoff series in the Western Conference. Let's add Chris Paul to this. Hey, we can challenge Golden State. And certainly we saw that year, they were that close to dethroning my Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Came very close. Really, James is the one who gagged it away. And then a year after that, Chris is like, I can't play with him anymore. I can't do it. Matter of fact, more than one occasion, multiple reports say, yeah, they just have blow-ups in practice. I believe James left a practice one day. James just like flat just left practice out of frustration with CP3. In the 3 years since their, I guess you could call it separation, divorce, whatever you want to call it, last 3 years, Chris Paul has gotten an Oklahoma City team that was tanking to the playoffs. He was 2 games away from winning a championship last year, and his team is the favorites to win the championship this year. Chris Paul's doing okay. And James couldn't make it work with him. And so with the Houston Rockets, what Daryl Morey said is, okay, we know Chris can play, but he didn't get along with James. Maybe Chris is the problem, right? Maybe what we need to do, we need to bring in one of James' homies in, right? We need to bring in Russell Westbrook because they're tight, right? They've been friends since they were kids. They're tight. They're BFFs, best buddies. Let's go get Russell Westbrook. And so they did. And Russell Westbrook, even though to this day is still tight with James Harden, could not stand playing with him. Because Westbrook, for all of my criticisms of Russell Westbrook, and I'll get into him later in the show when I talk about the Lakers, for all of my criticisms of Westbrook, you can't say that man does not care about basketball. You can't say that man does not show up every day ready to go. And what drove him nuts about Harden is he'd be late to practices, film sessions, meetings, team flights. That drove Russ crazy. And so they traded Russ, and then James is like, I want out of Houston. And didn't just go the route of Matthew Stafford, for example, right? Matthew Stafford asked out of Detroit. And Detroit said, okay, we respect you so much, we're going to let you choose where you want to go. Houston didn't have that respect for James Harden, nor should they have. Houston was a well-run operation for a long time with James Harden. They gave him an offensive coach. They gave him shooters. They gave him 2 superstar point guards. Before that, they gave him a star big man. And he never showed up in the postseason. And so James not only, he doesn't ask his way out of Houston, he forces his way out of Houston. And he does so by taking shots at a rookie head coach who had nothing to do with any of the things prior. I felt bad for Stephen Silas. He's going after Stephen Silas, the new head coach. He's going after teammates, taking shots at teammates. And let's be real, he got fat just so he could get out of Houston. So he completely demeaned and disrespected the organization, which had given him every single opportunity to succeed. He forces his way to Brooklyn. And with a guy who he had played with early in his career, he couldn't get along with, Kevin Durant. There's another guy he can't get along with. I get not getting along with Kyrie. I wouldn't get along with Kyrie. And Kevin Durant's not the easiest guy to play with. In the back of your head, you got to think, jeez, this guy's good. This guy can score at will. This guy's got 2 finals MVPs. He's the man. James wasn't about that. And so at the end of the day, after 1 year in Brooklyn, the team he forced his way to wanted to go to Brooklyn. I want to play with KD. A year later, he wants out. This, to me, is what's going to derail Philadelphia. Do I think they won the trade? I do. I think the fit with Harden and Embiid is going to work immensely better than the fit between Simmons and Embiid. Because as I mentioned, as I talked about in last Thursday's show, hours after the trade went down, I said, look, James is a scoring guard who's a great distributor. Is he a liability on the defensive end? Yes, but you still got Embiid, who's great defensively, and Thibault. You've got guys who can play defense without a question. Okay, Maxey isn't terrible defensively, so you're fine there. And he spaces the floor as well. He doesn't clog the paint for Embiid. And so I think the fit works, but there's 3 things to me that are going to derail Philadelphia's season. A, Embiid's health. we all kind of know he tends to be injury prone. Okay. Number 2 is James doesn't get along with stars. As I brought up this quote a million times, Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. That's 4 stars. 4 straight stars again, didn't get along with. Now, Kyrie is the 5th, but I get that. Nobody gets along with Kyrie, okay? I understand that. At some point, where's the accountability going to be for James? He's an MVP. He's led the league in scoring multiple times. He's led the league in assists multiple times. Today, if he retired, he's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. But just like I criticized Russell Westbrook, is James Harden a winning basketball player? No, he's not. I mean, can you imagine if LeBron had not prime Dwight Howard, that prime Dwight Howard was back in Orlando, but end of his prime, still all-star worthy Dwight Howard? That'd have been scary. If LeBron had CP3, if LeBron had, well, he does have Westbrook now. It hasn't worked so well, but Westbrook's another story unto himself. And can you imagine if LeBron had Kevin Durant? Can you imagine if one of James Harden's contemporaries who was in the same draft as him, 2009? Oh, yeah, Steph Curry. Can you imagine if he had Kevin Durant? I don't have to. They were together 3 years, and they won 2 straight championships and could have easily won a third if KD didn't get hurt. Heck, if Clay didn't get hurt. This has always been my criticism of James Harden. What's the third reason that the Philadelphia 76ers are not going to win a championship this year? Individually, James Harden. Do I have time to go over his playoff failure after playoff failure after playoff meltdown? Briefly. 2015, in a closeout game, season on the line against the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, he sets the NBA record for turnovers in a playoff game. 14 turnovers. 2 years later, down 3-2 against the San Antonio Spurs without Tony Parker and without Kawhi Leonard, and you're at home. And the Rockets lost by almost 40 points. A year after that, they held a 3-2 lead over the Warriors. And before you say, oh, well, Chris Paul was hurt, which will become significant for the year following. If you're the MVP, you get 2 cracks at it. One of those being at home. You got to win that series. If you're the MVP, you got to win that series. And James was awful in Game 6 and collapsed in the second half of Game 7. The year after that, same team. They're playing the Warriors again. Chris Paul's healthy this time. And they get the break of breaks. Kevin Durant gets hurt in Game 5 and misses the rest of the series. And the Rockets went 0-2. Last year, hurt hamstring. He does it when he's healthy, though. He underperforms when he's healthy. So I'm not going to give him the hamstring excuse. I've seen Steph Curry ball out injured in the playoffs. I've seen LeBron do it. I've seen Kevin Durant do it. I've seen Kawhi do it. James Harden, healthy or not, does not perform in the postseason. So get ready, Philadelphia fans. The fit's going to work. It is. But once he gets to playoff time, April, May, there won't be a June. At least not with your team in the NBA Finals. Not to say Kevin Durant isn't without blame in Brooklyn. He is. Absolutely. He's not a natural leader. He's the most gifted scorer I've ever seen. I've said that in this show, multiple times. That doesn't make him a great leader, like a LeBron, a Steph, a Chris Paul, a Jimmy Butler. Okay, so that's my issue with James. It's always somebody else's fault. There's a reason that you're on your 4th team. There's a reason you're on your 3rd team over the course of the last calendar year. Some of that's got to be, isn't it your fault just a little bit? Just a little bit. No? Oh, all right. So James is. He doesn't work with any star. If it's a low-maintenance star, if it's a high-maintenance star, if it's a guy who's good in the playoffs, if it's a guy who's not good in the playoffs, if it's a champion, if it's an all-star, it doesn't matter. He's not easy to play with. That's been evidence over and over and over again. Sorry, Philadelphia. Not really. No. I don't have a dislike for the 76ers the same way I do the Eagles, but it's still the same city. I cannot stand Philadelphia sports fans. Can't stand them. They ate crap off the streets after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. All right, speaking of a team the Eagles play twice a year, let's talk. We should do like a segment every week or like every month. The president of the United States does the State of the Union every year. We need to do the state of the Cowboys every month. We just need to do a state of the Cowboys, and I'll deliver a speech or something. Okay, I'm being facetious, but it's not a terrible idea. Could they just have like one quiet off season? Like just one, like where we don't hear much. You don't hear a lot of crap out of Baltimore and Pittsburgh and New England or Denver. You're hitting a little bit out of Denver this year, but that's because of the Brian Flores thing. I mean, but most of the time, Denver is crickets. These well-run franchises, it's crickets. Dallas, it is something every week. Whether it be the owner, the head coach, now the quarterback's name is being dragged through the mud again. Welcome to the Dallas Cowboys of 2022. Really, the Dallas Cowboys of the last quarter century plus. This is what it is. And so, before I get to the Cowboys, a comment from my man Grady Edwards. Always shows in the comments. Shout out to him. He says his skill works. I think him and Chris Paul worked, but CP3 is hard-headed too, and probably why it didn't work long-term. Also, I know it's partially his fault for Brooklyn. But wasn't that mainly Kyrie's fault? Yes, and like I said about Kyrie, I get him not getting along with Kyrie Irving. Like I get that. Nobody gets along with Kyrie, but nobody gets along with James either. Did he and Chris Paul work on the court? Yes. Is Chris Paul hard-headed? You better believe it. But the guys in Phoenix listened to his leadership, and they got to the finals. Okay, Chris Paul, when he doesn't get hurt, put 2015 aside when they blew a 3-1 lead to James Harden and the Rockets. Chris Paul usually shows up in the playoffs when he doesn't get hurt. Again, that's kind of the disclaimer, which he tends to get hurt in May and June. But the thing with me for on the court, Dwight Howard was a weird fit, but Dwight was like, I can't stand this guy anymore. Get me out of here. Okay, Chris Paul could not wait to get out of Houston. Chris Paul got Oklahoma City with, now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a really good basketball player. But guys like Dennis Schroeder, who's, had his own issues in locker rooms around the NBA. Guys like that. Now, Steven Adams is good, but he's not going to blow you away. I'm just saying, like everywhere Chris Paul goes, they win immediately. New Orleans, the Clippers. The Clippers, we never looked at the Clippers as relevant until Chris Paul got there. Now, obviously, Chris Paul got traded to Houston. They had a little down stretch there, but then they got Kawhi and Paul George, and now we talk about the Clippers a lot. Nobody talked about the Clippers before they went and got Chris Paul. The fact that he even had them on the doorstep of the Western Conference Finals is pretty amazing unto itself. So, but that's the thing is, while Chris Paul is hard-headed, while he has fought with teammates in the past, his leadership intangibles have never been questioned. Like I remember, was it Devin Booker? No, it was DeAndre Ayton that was talking about this. I heard this on a podcast recently. DeAndre Ayton wanted to fight Chris Paul their first training camp together. Like he can be hard to deal with. Absolutely. You bring up a good point. But when it's all said and done, when they listen to his leadership, he is a veteran after all. He is one of the 7 or 8 greatest point guards ever. You win. Chris Paul, and it's weird to say because he doesn't have a ring. Maybe he gets one this year. He's a winning basketball player. Like that's always been his resume. James has got to bounce from team to team to team to star to star. It's always something. It's always somebody else's fault with James. And leadership, I don't think anybody on earth thinks he's got any sort of leadership qualities or intangibles. So that's my thing. Back to the Dallas Cowboys, though. Gosh. Oh, my goodness. So, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was on the Rich Eisen show. By the way, shout out to Rich Eisen. He's one of my 2 or 3 favorite radio shows in America. Love Rich Eisen. Does a great job on the NFL Network. But he was interviewing Mike McCarthy the other day. And he was asking Mike, like, point blank, like, hey, is Sean Payton going to be the coach in 2023? Like, you hearing the rumors? And, Mike said, yeah, I hear that. I'm about winning. That's always what I'm about. I'm about winning games. And he said, are these narratives, do they get tiresome? Yes. Ooh, sounds like a shot at Jerry. So we got drama between McCarthy and Jerry. And here's what I will say, by the way. And I said this, I think, the week following the Cowboys playoff loss to the 49ers, when there was the Mike McCarthy rumors and this and that. I said, look, and especially I said this when Sean Payton, when the rumors started to come out about him possibly coaching the Cowboys next season. If you want to bring back Mike McCarthy, then bring him back to be your long-term coach. Do I want that? Absolutely not. But commit. Is it Mike McCarthy long-term? Or is it Dan Quinn right now? Or is it Kellen Moore right now? But no, Mike McCarthy's a lame duck coach right now. Y'all know, the guy drives me nuts with penalties. It's the most undisciplined team in the National Football League in terms of penalties. They were the most penalized team in football, 129 over the course of 17 games. And then clock management. Just watch any Dallas Cowboys game at the end of a half or at the end of the game. Heck, just watch the 49ers last, 13 seconds, and that'll tell you all you need to know about Mike McCarthy's clock management. But where I will come to his defense is this. Jerry has made him a lame duck coach. Jerry even said the other day, or last week, in an interview that, he said, Mike McCarthy knows that that there's going to be another man coaching the Dallas Cowboys. That ain't going to be him. My goodness. Now, if we're talking literally, yeah, he's right. Mike McCarthy is not going to coach the Cowboys forever. Okay. Why would you say that? It's the same Jerry Jones who, when Jason Garrett was the head coach, remember Jason Garrett's last year in 2019 when he went 8-8? It's kind of what he did, Mr. 8-8. Kind of like Jeff Fisher's Mr. 7-9. That was Jason Garrett's Mr. 8-8. But remember, the Cowboys lost to the Patriots. They lost 13-9 in a rain monsoon. It was awful weather, and they lost to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in Foxborough. Like, not an embarrassing loss by any stretch. And Jerry's like, put too much money in this. Put too much money in these players. I put too much money in these coaches for this to happen. And then 4 days later on Thanksgiving, they get mollywopped at home, obviously in perfect conditions because they're inside Jerry world, by the Bills, who at the time were not as good as the Patriots. They get destroyed. And Jerry's weeping after the game, talking about, me and Jason have had a great football life together. He's like a fan. He's not like your typical owner. He is like a fan. He's when they win, we are going to the Super Bowl. When they lose, we can't win a game. That's always been my issue with Jerry Jones. Always has been. People talk about, Mike McCarthy's the one holding us back. I'm like, has Mike McCarthy changed? He is who he is. You can't change that. He's, 56 years old? He's been coaching the NFL nearly 2 decades, at least as a head coach. He's been in the NFL almost 3 decades. He is who he is. But Jerry knows that as well. And this is why I hesitate to say that Sean Payton will be the head coach of the Cowboys next year. Do I hope that is the case? Please hear my prayers, Lord. But am I skeptical? Yeah. Why? Because I don't think Sean Payton will be a great coach. To me, if Sean Payton goes to Dallas and gets full control of what he wants there, they can go to the Super Bowl. I'm going to talk about the quarterback in a little bit. You got the quarterback, and you've got the superstar defensive player in Micah Parsons. You can build around those two guys, especially with a coach like Sean Payton. Here's my question. Is Jerry Jones going to let Sean Payton be Sean Payton? Because after he fired Jimmy Johnson, after the Cowboys' second consecutive Super Bowl title after the 1993 season, he hired one coach since then that he couldn't control. Who was that? Bill Parcells. Right? Bill Parcells was there for 4 years, 2003 to 2006, I believe it was. Excuse me. And what was the reason they parted ways? Jerry wanted T.O. Bill Parcells didn't. Jerry Jones showed Bill Parcells the door, and he retired from coaching. So even the one he couldn't control, once push came to shove on a personnel decision, Jerry Jones kicked a Hall of Fame coach at the back door again. And in between, it's been Dave Campo and guys like obviously Jason Garrett and Wade Phillips and Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones cannot control Sean Payton. Sean Payton is his own man, right? Big personality, strong opinions, strong beliefs in coaching philosophies and personnel decisions. By the way, he and the general manager, is it Mickey Loomis is the general manager of the Saints? Oh my goodness, they did a phenomenal job the last 5 years in the draft. I mean, look at some of the guys they drafted. Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams, and Marcus Davenport, and Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. They drafted some dudes the last few years. So, will Jerry let Sean Payton have control, along with obviously Will McClay, make those decisions? I don't know, because what do we see in Hard Knocks? What do we see a few years ago when the Dallas Cowboys did the documentary, the in-season documentary? I think it's called All or Nothing, which for the Cowboys that year, shocker, was nothing. But what did Jerry do? What did he do in Hard Knocks this past summer? He sits in on those coaches' meetings. The coach has to answer to Jerry every single decision that he makes. I want to reiterate, I am no Mike McCarthy fan. But that's ridiculous. I am no Jason Garrett fan. That is ridiculous. To think that I have someone looking, someone over my shoulder every single move that I make. Sean Payton's not going to take that. He's not going to do that. So the question is, does he want to be able to do that? And I'll get to Dak in just a second. But Grady says, how about them Cowboys? Yeah, how about them, right?
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
How about them? Grady says, why would they commit to someone long-term? That would be less to talk about. Jerry wants this. Thank you very much. You're right in the money. It's got to be a headline. By the way, though, except when the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders reach a settlement with the Dallas Cowboys about one of their executives peeping into their locker room, then Jerry's just, you don't hear a word like, where'd Jerry go? Where or social justice? Where'd Jerry go? Oh. But anything else, he can't keep his big mouth shut. Grady says, Sean just needs a year off. The closest thing to relevancy since Jimmy and Switzer has been Bill Parcells. Absolutely. And no disrespect to Barry Switzer, who was a great college coach. Anybody could have won with that 95 Cowboys roster. I mean, come on. Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Charles Haley, Deion Sanders, the Great Wall of Dallas. I mean, it was stacked. Novacek, Daryl Moose Johnson. I mean, the roster was just crazy. Crazy. Like any coach could have won. Like, that's one of the greatest rosters that's ever been put together in NFL history. Gray says, to be fair, though, Parcells had 2 wildcard losses in 4 years. I think there was an issue about Parcells wanting more money, and Jerry didn't think he was worth it considering his older age. I don't think I've ever heard anything about the age or contract coming into play. You are right about the 2 wildcard losses. But Bill Parcells was starting to build a culture. And to be fair to Parcells, he never had really a true franchise quarterback up until Tony Romo began his emergence in the 2006 season. So if Romo gets to develop under Parcells, Could they have reached a conference championship game? Sure, they could have. They almost did under Wade Phillips. John just says, yeah, as long as Jerry's running the show, the Cowboys will be good, but not win it all. I painfully agree. It's like they show the Vegas odds for next season winning the Super Bowl, and I'm just like, oh, man, that's what they do, man. Vegas, they're just taking suckers' money right now. Because you know what the top four is? Vegas favorites to win Super Bowl 57 next year in Arizona. Number one, the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, no surprise there. They've been to a lot of conference championship games. They won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Okay, that's fine. Buffalo Bills in second. Hey, probably should have beaten the Chiefs. And I think they would have beaten Cincinnati to go to this year's Super Bowl. Okay, I love Buffalo. Love Josh Allen. Third, the team that actually won it, the Los Angeles Rams. Absolutely. Of course, they should be the favorites. And then coming in at fourth place, the Dallas Cowboys, who lost their first playoff game. Yeah. By the way, they were the only home team to lose their playoff game in the wild card round. So just wanted to throw that out there because I don't know where Vegas is looking at. This is interesting. Grady says, serious questions. How good do you think Dallas would be if Jerry named himself head coach? Gosh, can you imagine what that would look like? Oh, man. Whew. Let's just say, I don't even know how to answer that question. Like, see, I want to say it'd be a clown show, but it kind of already is a clown show. So does it get worse? I guess it could. I mean, at least they won the division this year. At least they did that. At least they made the playoffs. It can get worse. Ask Jets fans. But with Jerry, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if he did. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. I don't think he would, but if you want to give me like a win total, I'd say 5 games. Maybe that's being generous. Heck, Urban Meyer was a disaster in Jacksonville, which, Dallas is better than Jacksonville, but still. I'd say 5 would be like my cap for them if they. Oh gosh, that would be that'd be a nightmare. That Jerry Jones being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, that would be an absolute nightmare.
There's a pony in here somewhere, is the old adage, with the boy scooping up the manure on Christmas Day and whistling while he was doing it. Here comes Santa Claus.
This guy being the head coach. Yeah. Okay, let's shift sort of the Cowboys conversation to Dak. One more comment though, real quick. I wondered if you'd catch that, John. I wonder if you catch that. He's got the angry emoji. I'm just saying. I'm not taking a shot at Jets fans. I'm just saying you guys have it worse than us. You do, and I feel sorry for you because, it's just the Jets are a mess. But shifting sort of the conversation to Dak. So Dak was asked about whether or not, because the Cowboys have a lot of free agents this year. I think they have close to 20 free agents. If not more than that. But they asked Dak Prescott about whether he would have a say in free agent decisions or personnel input would be the better terminology for it. And he said, quote, "I'm not going in and knocking on doors saying, hey, I want this done, I want that done, but I'm pretty sure that my opinion will be valued in certain decisions as I hope. So with that being said, just plan on helping this team get better in every which way I can," end quote. So again, Dak being Dak, he's not going to give the media a ton, which, I prefer if you're a quarterback. That's why Baker drives me crazy. But with Dak Prescott, people talking about, has he earned the right to have personnel decisions? Yeah. Now it's kind of like I'm going to talk about the Lakers in just a second in the next segment. LeBron's arguably the greatest player of all time. I got him as a close second behind Michael, but he's awesome. He's an awful general manager. He's awful at putting a team together. Okay. Aaron Rodgers had a lot of say in the Packers' personnel decisions. He brought Randall Cobb in. Randall Cobb did nothing in Green Bay. Okay. He wanted to bring back all these guys that were washed. Cobb was really the only guy that they brought in. They were like, okay, fine. Well, let's just appease Aaron. Let's bring him in. So should Aaron should he have input? Yeah, he's earned that right. Has Dak earned that? I think if you're a franchise quarterback, If you're a guy who the organization believes can win you a Super Bowl, sure. Sure, you should have input. Now, do I want Dak making all the decisions? No, of course not. That's unfortunately Jerry Jones' job, but you may it could have gotten that much worse with Dak. Maybe, maybe not. But the point of it is this. I'm hearing a lot of this right now. The Dak Prescott's overrated debate, which is really, really funny. So this, he was in a slump and he wasn't playing good football and this and that and the other. Did he play perfect against San Francisco? Lord, no. Of the Dak's first 3 playoff games against the Packers, Seahawks, and Rams, he went 1-2 in those games, but he was outstanding in all 3. Outdueled Aaron Rodgers in the first game, in which Aaron made a great throw to Jared Cook, set the Packers up, and they won it at the Horn with Mason Crosby. 2 years later, outdueled a guy who I think is absolutely better than him. I love Russell Wilson. Love him. But Dak outdueled Russell Wilson. A game after that, he outdueled Jared Goff. The difference is Jared Goff had a run game and a defense. Dak had neither that night, and that's your game. The Cowboys only lost by 8 that night, by the way. Jared Goff also had Sean McVay. Dak had Jason Garrett. Point of it being, Dak had been really, really good in his first 3 playoff games. Against San Francisco, wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough by his standards. Was it good enough to win? I could make that argument. People talk about the 13 seconds left, the quarterback draw, and I get that. What I guess haunts me more as a Dak supporter, the only reason that I am a Cowboys fan is because of Dak, is the drive before that. Remember, the Cowboys were down 6 and they had all their timeouts, right? They were driving. And they had a 4th and long, and San Francisco brought an all-out blitz. And Dak, you can go watch the play on YouTube. Dak avoided the blitz, rolled out to his right. It being that it was 4th down, just heaved it up in the air, hoping that somebody came down with it. And he gave Cedric Wilson a chance to catch that football. He just couldn't make the play. And what did I say going into that game? I said San Francisco's the better football team. I picked the Cowboys because I thought Dak was better than Jimmy, which we all agree Dak's better than Jimmy. I don't think anybody disputes that. And Jimmy didn't play that well to begin with himself. And so you had that aspect of it. People saying, oh, he's overpaid. Which, even as a Dak guy, as a guy who wears his freaking hat on my show, do I think Dak's a $40 million quarterback? Not really. To me, I look at he and Derek Carr sort of in that same breath. Guys who have some good players, like one great player. Derek Carr's got Darren Waller, and Max Crosby's really good too. And Dak has Micah Parsons there the other side. The guy is just out of this world phenomenal. He's got some good players. CeeDee Lamb's good. Amari Cooper, he's a good player. Zeke's gone. He's washed. Offensive line outside Zach Martin is, it's not Cincinnati bad, but it's not great. Trayvon Diggs gets burned every play. Might as well be Eli Apple with hands. But he's sort of a life preserver. He can win you double-digit games with decent supporting cast, but nowhere near. Not to take credit away because I thought he played great in the playoffs. Matthew Stafford has a loaded supporting cast. Carson Wentz, who I'm going to talk about tomorrow, had a loaded supporting cast in Indianapolis. Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb, who disappeared in the second half of the season, with Mike McCarthy at head coach, with the conservative offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, who refuses to let Dak throw deep balls, with no running game and no secondary. You want to know who the passer rating leaders were in 2021? You know who led the NFL in passer rating? It was the guy who won the most valuable player, Aaron Rodgers. We all think he's amazing, and he is. You know who was second in passer rating? Joe Burrow. Yeah, he's out of this world, clearly. Got the Bengals to the Super Bowl. He's amazing. You know who's third? Dak Prescott. So outside of the guy who won the MVP and the guy who took a crappy roster, a below average roster to the Super Bowl, Dak was third. He also set the Cowboys record for passing touchdowns in the season with 37. But you're telling me he can't play. You're telling me he's not a guy who can win you a Super Bowl. Yeah, with the head coach they have, with the owner they have, Yeah, you're right. Like Derek Carr in Las Vegas is never going to win a Super Bowl. He's never going to. First of all, he's in a brutal division. And second of all, Mark Davis is not a good owner. Josh McDaniels, I hated the hire. Hated it. I thought to me, you should have brought back Rich Bisaccia if you were considering bringing Josh McDaniels in. Rich Bisaccia did a really good job. Derek Carr will get you to the playoffs, but the supporting cast is not good enough to help him get further. That's what makes Burrow's accomplishment so unbelievable. That he got a roster within like 2 minutes of winning the Super Bowl. Like, that's phenomenal. Shows you how great he is. But this Dak slander has got to stop. Okay? Here's the hypocrisy of it all. And I see your comments, great. I'll get to them literally in just a second because you make some good points in here. Not about the Cowboys, but about about Brady and Tampa, because there's a lot of stuff going on with that right now. But before I get to the Brady and Tampa comments, when it comes down to it, the hypocrisy of the Cowboys criticisms, 85-90% of which I agree with, because most are directed at the coach and the owner. We say, Jerry's a meddling owner. Yeah, he is. Mike McCarthy's not a good head coach. I agree with you. He's not. Players in that team underperformed. I concur. And Dak Prescott sucks. Or Dak Prescott can't win a Super Bowl. Well, you're right. In Dallas, he's not going to win a Super Bowl. Put in San Francisco, go and start patching those jerseys with the Super Bowl 57 logo. Because Jimmy Garoppolo almost got that team to the Super Bowl. And the guy was awful in the playoffs. Put him with Kyle Shanahan. This is why I think Trey Lance is going to be phenomenal. Because he has Kyle Shanahan. He's got Kittle, Deebo Samuel, great offensive line, great running game, great defense, great special teams. Tough division, but you can deal with that with the roster that you have with you. I don't know if we're ever going to know. I do. But I don't know if the public's ever going to know how good Dak is until he gets out. It's, to a lesser degree, Matt Stafford in Detroit. Crappy ownership. Stafford had one good head coach, Jim Caldwell. He had one out-of-this-world player in Calvin Johnson. And that was it. In a bad division, too. Remember, NFC North was not a good division. Still isn't. Same in Dallas. It's a bad division. Dak's, unlike at least Stafford did have Jim Caldwell for a hot minute. Dak's had Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones on the team. What are you expecting him to do with that? Maybe the expectation for the Cowboys are because it is the Cowboys. It is the star. It is the largest brand in sports around the world. They're not contenders. Stop. The Rams are better or more of contenders than the Cowboys are. The 49ers are more of contenders than the Cowboys are. I'd even argue, although I don't think they're like legit contenders, the Packers I would consider more of a contender than the Cowboys. And Tampa Bay, there's some rumors they might get Deshaun Watson. Or they may try to go after Russell Wilson. If they do that, they're absolutely right back in the contention bubble after Tom Brady's retirement. And speaking of Tom Brady, get to these comments here. Grady asked, does Tampa owe it to Brady to trade him to San Francisco if he's straight up with them about always wanting to play with the 49ers? I hope he doesn't suit up for the Niners, but I give it a 30% chance for one season. I don't like the idea of the GOAT being a mercenary. I don't think it happens. I don't think if he returns, it's for Tampa, but I hope he stays retired. I think he's actually having a hard time being retired, y'all. And that's the thing. And that's sort of what I worried about with Tom. Like, gosh, how's he going to deal with this whole retirement thing? Like, do I think he made the right decision? If he thinks it is, then I think it is. If the individual thinks it's the right decision for them, you enjoy your family. You go do that second career. Because if that's what you want to pursue, you've won your rings. You've broken your records. You've won your games. You've forged these relationships with coaches and teammates. If you believe it's over, hey, I got nothing bad to say. But I do think, I don't think it's going to be that hard now, Grady. Once we get to September and October, I think this is going to be the hardest football seasons of Tom Brady's life. Seriously. Because Tom even talked about this last offseason. When he watches guys on TV, I'm like, better than him. I'm better than him. I could have made that throw. I could have done this. I could have done that. In most cases, or if not all cases, I will say all is a strong word. In most cases, Tom's right. And next year, clearly Tom retiring was not like we weren't sad just for sentimental purposes. We were like, dang, he can still play. I mean, he did finish second for the most valuable player. Like, he can obviously still play football. Tom knows that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that factors. But do I think Tampa trades him to San Francisco? Well, I'll go and put your comment back up there about that. No, because I think San Francisco thinks Trey Lance is going to be a superstar, as do I, by the way. I think it's certainly possible that he would at least think about going there. But let's say we get into next season, the first month, and Trey Lance lights the world on fire. I'm not talking about plays well. I'm talking about like MVP stuff. They're not going to go trading for Tom Brady. Because while in that moment, Tom Brady might be better than Trey Lance, great as he is, greatest athlete in the history of team sports, as I've told you, he'll be 45 years old. Like, Trey Lance is like 2, 3? Like, he's a kid. And so if they get what they think they're going to get out of him, what I think they're going to get out of him, Niners are going to be contenders for a long time. And so they won't necessarily need Tom to do that. So I don't think it's a possibility. I think Tom would love to, I think he'd be at least considered playing for San Francisco because that was his childhood team. But I think he's when it's all said and done, this football season I think is going to be brutal for Tom. But moving forward, I think he'll be more than content in retirement. The Masked Up Podcast. What's up, dude? What's up, Masked Up Podcast? I'm so excited for Mike Thomas returning to the Saints. His pick from the day before yesterday, dude, looked huge, almost like DK Metcalf. It's crazy. MT, Michael Thomas, coming for that Comeback Player of the Year award. Listen, I'm going to be interested to see him without Drew Brees. I think that matters. We've never really seen Michael Thomas over a long stretch of time without Drew Brees. I don't know who the quarterback of the Saints is going to be next year. I don't think that they're going to make any serious run for the playoffs now that Peyton's gone. Obviously, Drew Brees this will be his second year of retirement. Does Jameis come back? Maybe, but my whole point of Jameis being in New Orleans was because of Sean Payton. So I don't know. Maybe they bring Teddy Bridgewater back. I don't know. But I don't see the Saints getting to the playoffs next year. I like Dennis Allen, but let's be real. His tenure in Oakland was awful. Now, maybe that was Oakland's fault. Who knows? But Dennis Allen, I think we would all agree is a better defensive coordinator than head coach. A Masked Up Podcast says Brady might not come back. It's all clout. He wants to be the center of attention all the time. It's just another thing he can do to keep him in the media. He is retiring. Just retire. So I don't even think I'm going to address the wants to be the center of attention aspect of it. Look, don't we all want to be the center of attention to a certain degree? When you're the best ever that ever did something, flex a little bit. I don't think he's just putting this out just so he can be talked about. People are going to talk about Tom Brady. He knows that, and Tom Brady's not an insecure individual. Like, if this was, sorry to keep taking shots at him, but if this was Aaron Rodgers, you might have a point. But Tom is pretty quiet. Now, he's shown a little bit more of his personality after he got out of New England. But, he's kind of more quiet. He's not got a big boisterous personality, certainly not in the offseason. That's the case. He's very, sort of PC, doesn't want to say the wrong thing, just, goes by the book, family man, great teammate, coachable. Like, I don't think that's at the root of what he's doing. But I do agree with you. I think he's retired. I don't think Tom is going to come back. Some of the rumors, people made a lot out of the where Tom said never say never. Well, yeah, I agree with that. You never say never in life. I know Mike Tomlin said never say never, but that's a whole different scenario with what was going on there. But yeah, I don't blame Tom for saying that. Never say never, but you got to leave it open. Masked Up Podcast says Winston will be our quarterback. Market playoffs, we will make it for sure. We have a top 5 defense, and our offensive line will be healthy at the beginning of the season. We had top 5 O-line, so all we need are some wide receivers. I mean, let's look at it this way. So Dallas is winning the NFC East, Green Bay is winning the NFC North, and we can debate as to who wins the NFC West. Let's just say it's the Rams. Just because they're the champions, let's say the Rams win the division. Well, San Francisco, I think we all agree, San Francisco's going to the playoffs. Arizona's not going to get worse. They're going to the playoffs. Okay? Now, the Saints' best shot to get in would probably be to win the NFC South, which isn't a good division. Atlanta's Atlanta. Carolina's a mess right now. And Tampa is in need of a quarterback. I think if they just get Jimmy Garoppolo, who I have my issues with, but put the perfect pieces around Jimmy Garoppolo, he's proven he can get you, to the playoffs. I think if they just get Jimmy Garoppolo, they'll win the division. I think if they get Deshaun Watson, look the flip out, because they are contenders now, and they will run away with that division. And so that last playoff spot, we can debate as to a number of teams. You could say Minnesota. Okay, if you want to say the Saints are better than Minnesota, I don't have a problem with that. Philadelphia, I think Philadelphia's taking a step back. What does Washington do at the quarterback position? Russell Wilson could still be in Seattle. So I think the Saints' best shot to get in the playoffs would be to win the NFC South. And Tampa is a quarterback away, depending on the quarterback. If it's Jimmy Garoppolo, they're winning the division going to the playoffs. If it's Deshaun Watson, they're not just going to win the division. They got a shot to legitimately win the Super Bowl. But again, with Deshaun, we got to see what the legal step point is. So, maybe it'll be Kyle Trask to start the season if Deshaun Watson is suspended for what's going on right now. So a lot of question marks. It is still February, so we got to see what happens in free agency. The Saints aren't in a great position cap-wise. And in the draft, which the Saints draft incredibly well, so that will factor. All right. I want to talk about shifting from football for a second, and I'll shift back to talk a little Kyler Murray. Those Los Angeles Lakers, from one big brand to another, from the Dallas Cowboys to the Los Angeles Lakers. So they beat the Jazz last night. It was a very entertaining basketball game. Aaron Donald, fresh off of a interesting LA Rams parade. And by the way, in that parade, I probably saw like 15 fans there, but that's neither here nor there. The Rams, I've always said they have no fan base in LA. They're gonna have to do some work to build that, because if that would have been Pittsburgh, Dallas, New England, Denver, the Giants, the Eagles, those streets would have been packed full. Seattle was packed full for their Super Bowl parade. Kansas City was packed full. The Rams, it was like empty streets. It's like they got some work to do. Which, I mean, we all knew LA's a Dodgers and Lakers town. I mean, those two teams run the city. Heck, I'd argue the Clippers are more popular in LA than the LA Rams, which is kind of sad. But about the Lakers, so there's all these reports come about Russell Westbrook, and they want to make it work, and they were trying to move him, but then they were like, no, it's going to work at the end of the day, even though you're seeing that, 4 games under 500? 4 games, 27-31? Yeah, 27-31, and you are the 9 seed. Okay. And to avoid the play-in, you would have to come back from 6 games down from behind the Denver Nuggets. I'm not going to rant and gloat about how I was right about the Lakers, because that's no fun. It is fun, but I'm not going to do it today. But this goes to show you something that I don't think I've discussed enough on this show. I don't think the Lakers get enough credit for this. Can we just say it out loud? They're not a well-run franchise, okay? When you have LeBron, it masks a lot of your deficiencies. Look at Cleveland. Cleveland's doing well now. Kobe Altman's done a good job as of late. But those Cleveland Cavaliers around like 2017, 18, they weren't very good. But LeBron got them to the NBA Finals because he was right in the prime of his career. Okay, look at the early Cleveland LeBron James for the first 7 years of his NBA career. Got him to NBA Finals, got him to some Eastern Conference Finals. Literally single-handedly beat Detroit in 2007 in the Eastern Conference Finals. What did he score? Like 29 of the Cavs' last 30 points. It was like something crazy like that. Like LeBron just dragged Cleveland, who had awful upper management. Dan Gilbert is not a good owner. Okay, nobody thinks he's a good owner. In Miami is really where he flourished the most. They have great ownership. Eric Spoelstra, to me, I've always liked Eric Spoelstra. I think he's a great coach. You had D. Wade and Chris Bosh. Now, the roster got a little older there toward the end, but I think that was the reason he wanted to go back to Cleveland, and he wanted to win a championship for his hometown, which he, of course, accomplished in 2016. But what are the Lakers without LeBron James? Since Jeannie Buss took over, after in my opinion, I would argue the greatest owner of all time, Dr. Jerry Buss, next to George Steinbrenner of the Yankees, like two of the greatest owners ever. After Dr. Buss passed, what was the Lakers' record since then? Okay. Without LeBron, since Dr. Buss passed away, which I believe was in early 2013. And by the way, 3 months later is when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles. And that was pretty much the end of Kobe Bryant in terms of his prime in the NBA. Okay. After that, from then on, the Los Angeles Lakers, without LeBron, 27 wins, 21 wins, 17 wins, 26 wins, 35 wins. With LeBron, 37 wins. Last year got bounced in the first round. This year are 4 games under 500. It's taking Herculean efforts by LeBron to win these games. Why? Multitude of reasons. Anthony Davis, God bless him. I hope he recovers from this injury because it didn't look good. We still haven't gotten the MRI results, which is weird because usually, we kind of know by now, considering it's almost 24 hours after the injury. But Anthony Davis, what do I call him? AD does not stand for Anthony Davis. It stands for always down. And he was down again last night. He got a rebound, came down wrong on his ankle, and it did not look good. And a man as big as Anthony Davis, all that weight coming down on his ankle, that's bad news. And Lord knows how long he's going to be out. Again. Russell Westbrook's played fairly well the last 2 games. Played well against my Warriors this past Saturday. And to his credit, hit the clutch free throws last night that put the game away. Like Russ, hey, I give Russ his due share. Like, that's good on you. Hasn't turned the ball over much, has been fairly efficient. But it is taking Herculean efforts by LeBron James. I mean, last night, he's having to just go Superman at age 37 in year 19 just to win these games at home. Down 10 with 6 minutes to go. And in total, LeBron James scored 29 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, a triple-double, and shot 13 for 24 from the field and had to play 40 minutes. I don't care how great in shape LeBron is, and that's been evidence. He's in unbelievable shape. He cannot be playing 40 minutes a night. That is not a formula for success if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. And so this sort of notion that, the Lakers, the lore of the Lakers, stop it. Miss me with that. After you won that championship in 2010, what are you? You know me, I don't put asterisks next to championships. I don't do that. And I'm not going to put an asterisk next to the Lakers 2020 championship. But come on. If the pandemic doesn't hit, do we really think the Lakers were going to win the finals that year? Come on. Would the Clippers have screwed it up? Yeah, I think they would have because they're the Clippers. But Denver was a problem. Okay? Houston, I think, absolutely could have beaten the Lakers. Why? Because Anthony Davis would have gotten hurt. Why do I know that? Because he always gets hurt. Why didn't he get hurt in the bubble, you ask? Because he got 4 months off. He got a 4-month sabbatical in a way. LeBron, at age 35 at the time, fresh legs going into the playoffs. Last year, he didn't have fresh legs going to the playoffs. He didn't play that well against the Phoenix Suns. So in 3 years from now, when LeBron leaves the Lakers to go play with Bronny, because he has been very vocal about that, I want to go play with my son once he gets in the NBA. And today, LeBron James Jr., Bronny, is a junior in high school. So next year, he'll be a senior. The following year, he'll probably play a year of college basketball. I don't know if he'll try the G League. LeBron will probably want him to play college basketball, like at Duke or somewhere. And then he'll go to the draft, which at that point, it would be 2024, I believe. 2024, 2025 season. That would be Bronny's first year of eligibility in the NBA. And so LeBron said, I want to go play with him. I want to go play with my son, which will be a great moment for the NBA and a great moment for the James family. So the Lakers would lose LeBron unless they found a way to get Bronny. But they'd be competing with 29 other teams. So let's say they draft Bronny. Let's say the Dallas Mavericks draft him and LeBron goes over there to join him. What would the Lakers be? Jeannie Buss. She's not an awful owner. She's not James Dolan. But when you get LeBron to your franchise, it kind of masks a lot of your deficiencies. People talk about, well, after Wilt and Jerry West, we got Magic and Kareem. After Magic and Kareem, we went through sort of a lull. We were good, not championship contenders. And we got Kobe and Shaq. And then after Kobe and Shaq, it was a little lull. We went to the first round and we'd lose to Phoenix. And then we got Kobe and Powell. And all of that was under Dr. Jerry Buss. By the way, a lot of those were with Jerry West as the GM. Jerry West went out and got Shaq in free agency. He went out and got Kobe Bryant, traded with the Charlotte Hornets for Kobe Bryant's draft rights. Jerry West is with the Clippers now because the Lakers pretty much booted him from their organization for reasons I'm not exactly sure. Okay, you booted the logo out of your organization? You won't let him go to home games? Are you kidding me? Dr. Buss is gone. So now what? The GM is the GM. Why? Because he was Kobe Bryant's agent. That is the only reason as the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm talking about Rob Pelinka. Kurt Rambis has a big voice in this organization. Are you kidding me? Kurt Rambis, nothing against the guy personally. I've heard he's a decent guy, but he doesn't even be making decisions for the Lakers. Unless they hire an A-level GM, they'll be good. They'll be the same level as the Clippers. Will they be more popular than the Clippers? Absolutely, and they should be. They are the top of LA sports. They're up there right with the Dodgers. Celebrities are still going to go to Laker games. Snoop is still going to Laker games. Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, they're still going to Laker games. Okay, they're going to do that. But when LeBron leaves, what are you going to do? Draft? They haven't drafted horribly well as of late. So, in general, and by the way, their free agent moves outside of LeBron have been awful. I mean, awful. Just look at the summer of 2016 to give you that. Timofey Mozgov and, oh my goodness, that contract they gave him and, the free agent signings of this past summer, which I said at the time outside of, I believe, Malik Monk. Malik Monk was the only signing I liked. Outside of that, hated every signing. Don't dislike the guys individually. They're good dudes, but the fit was horrible. Trevor Ariza and Dwight Howard, Kent Bazemore. Kent Bazemore drove me crazy as a Warriors fan. So it was never bound to work with the Lakers. They're not a well-run franchise. It gets masked because they have the second greatest basketball player who ever lived in their organization. Rob Pelinka is not a qualified GM. He's there because he was Kobe Bryant's agent. That's why. He's a good agent, arguably a great agent. He's not a GM. LeBron is not a GM. With all due respect to Jeannie Buss, who seems like a very pleasant person. Nothing against her personally. How historic her being a woman owning the Los Angeles Lakers. Nothing but respect. That said, she's not a good owner. Okay? She was Dr. Buss's daughter. She was born into it. I'm not taking a shot at her financially at all. But in terms of owning a basketball team, she's not good. She's not James Dolan. James Dolan's the worst owner in sports. Okay, he's awful. The GM, Rob Pelinka, is not qualified. He's not a good GM. Kurt Rambis was in on the Lakers head coaching search in 2019. But you want to blame Frank Vogel for this? People are being hard on Westbrook. I've been hard on Westbrook. He is what he is. That's what I talked about with Mike McCarthy earlier in the show. He is what he is. Can't change him. Can't be all that surprised by what you're getting by Russell Westbrook, or from Russell Westbrook, rather. So no, I'm not surprised at all what the Lakers are not doing. They're not a well-run franchise. Since 2013, it has been pretty much a gravel road. LeBron did not go to LA because of the Lakers. Okay? Excuse me. He went there to build his brand. And by the way, I think he's doubled his net worth since he's been in Los Angeles. He brought Anthony Davis along when he realized, oh, wait, shoot, I could win a championship here. And by the way, outside of the 1 year, how's that worked? Out in the first round last year, I think they'll get in the playoffs this year. My gut tells me they will. But they're not beating Phoenix. Come on. They're not beating Golden State. Heck, they couldn't beat Memphis. Memphis is a better team than the Lakers. And LeBron by himself at age 37 can't do it anymore. He's still great. He can't drag a team like he used to. And unfortunately, with this roster, he's going to have to drag them. With this organization, he's going to have to drag them. We look at the Lakers in this, we almost deify them in a way, like we do the Cowboys and the Yankees. But what people don't want to talk about is that the Yankees haven't won a championship in 12 years. This past decade was the first decade in their history they didn't even get to a World Series. So you have that aspect of it. And then you add to it that with the Lakers, they got the break of the pandemic and getting to go to the bubble. I don't put asterisks next to championships. They went in there and they won that thing. Straight up. They don't win that championship if the NBA season is not canceled by COVID. And the Cowboys have yet to go to a conference championship game in 26 years. Just because they're big brands, just because we talk about them a lot, and they're on TV a lot, and they got big stars, does not make them well run. I don't think the Yankees are poorly run, but not as well run as, say, the Red Sox or the Cubs for a while there with Theo Epstein. I mean, come on. Nobody's taking y'all seriously. All right. So Kyler Murray for a quick second, then I'll finish the show with Giannis. This whole Arizona Kyler thing is getting weird. Real quick. Okay, that's just a bot comment. Who cares about that? This whole Arizona Kyler thing is getting kind of weird because Arizona puts it out there, or at least, sources out of Arizona put it out there that Kyler has sort of not been the greatest teammate in the world. They think he's being a little bit of a baby, and they want veterans to try and get to him. J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones and DeAndre Hopkins to kind of get to him. And then Kyler Murray comes out with an Instagram post recently and says, quote, "I play the game for the love of it. My teammates, everyone who's helped me get to this position that believed in me and win championships. All this nonsense is not what I'm about. Never has been, never will be. Anyone who has ever stepped between those lines knows me, with me knows how hard I go. Love me or hate me, but I'm going to continue to grow and get better." I like that last line because I think it shows a little bit of accountability. And look, I'm not a Cliff Kingsbury fan either. I don't think he's the greatest head coach in the world. I think when you look back at his days at Texas Tech and now with Arizona, every single year consistently, his teams have underperformed at the end of the season compared to what they did at the start of the season. I don't think the Cardinals can win a Super Bowl with Cliff Kingsbury head coach. I think they can with Kyler Murray at quarterback. Part of Kyler's issue is two things. A, he can't stay healthy. This is 2 straight years now that Kyler limped out of the season. Also, in that playoff game, though they got mollywopped by the Rams, which, by the way, there's not exactly a ton of shame in that. They did just win the Super Bowl. Kyler was awful. Awful in that game. I mean, the one image that will stick out from the 2021 season in terms of Kyler and the Cardinals will always be that end zone pick 6 thrown by Kyler, where he's about to get sacked, just take the safety, and he just flings it up in the air, wildly, and a Ram picks it off and runs in the end zone. It's like, oh, that's a game. So I don't know what's going on, but it is weird, really weird what's going on between the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. I just don't. It seems to be this weird disconnect. At least with Russell Wilson, we kind of have an idea that he's getting a little sick of Pete Carroll and this and that. I don't know what's up with, because I think the Cardinals are a well-run franchise. I think Steve Keim's a really good general manager. I think they're a coach away. and maybe some pieces here and there on the roster. The secondary isn't perfect outside of Budda Baker and the linebacking core. You know, they've got holes to fill, but in that division, they did beat the Rams albeit in week 4. They did beat the Seattle Seahawks without Kyler Murray on the road. And they've competed and won games against the 49ers this year and in years past. So I don't know what's going on. It's just, I'm sorry, but it's weird. What's going on between the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. Okay, last topic before we get out of here. I just got to say this. So remember how when LeBron was like in his prime, like those last couple of years in Miami, and then, or really the last year in Miami, and then all 4 years of the second stint in Cleveland, when year after year after year, LeBron was putting up awesome numbers, was going to NBA finals after NBA finals after NBA finals, and his name was literally never mentioned for MVP except for like one of those years, 2018. Outside of that, the people are like, oh, it's Westbrook. Really? Harden, come on. Kawhi, please. So bringing up all those names, but LeBron's never even brought up. It's the old thing that I talk about. The fact that Tom Brady has 3 MVPs is ridiculous. The fact that LeBron has only 4 MVPs is ridiculous. He's been the best player in basketball. See, this is year 19, so I don't know, like 17 of those years he's been the best player. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is starting to get that same treatment. So he won those first 2 MVPs, and he's the new big thing in basketball, and he's winning Defensive Player of the Year along with the second MVP, and then he even wins the championship. He's the defending champion, the defending Finals MVP, and nobody's talking about for MVP. It's Embiid. By the way, don't have a problem with Embiid being in that discussion. It's Jokic. Stop it. Stop it with that. It's LeBron. LeBron's having a great year. His team is the 9 seed. Like if we say record, we seem to move the goalposts. Sometimes record matters, sometimes it doesn't. Whatever. And then you have Giannis, whose team is 3rd in the East, whose team is the defending champions, and all he's doing is averaging a cool 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists, and is second in basketball and player efficiency rating. Oh, yeah, the other night he just dropped 50 points on 81% shooting. Could someone like at least mention his name in the MVP discussion? I mean, he is kind of leading the league in scoring. I mean, isn't that what was it Bill Russell talked about? At the end of the day, basketball is just putting the ball in the hoop. Well, Giannis is doing that better than anybody. He's averaging 29.4 points per game. That's first in basketball. He is averaging 11 rebounds. Okay, that's top 10 in the NBA. It's at 7th. And he's in the running now that Draymond's gotten hurt and has been out for almost 2 months to win Defensive Player of the Year, which he could do the second time, which could make NBA history. No player has ever won multiple MVPs and multiple Defensive Player of the Year trophies. And Giannis could do that. Why aren't we talking about this guy? Can I reiterate? He scored 50 the other night. You would say, oh, it's the Pacers. Listen, we know at the NBA, there's 82 games. It's a night-to-night league. We talk about the NFL's a week-to-week league. NBA is a night-to-night league. We know who's good in the long run and who's not, but any team could be getting beat on any given day. Ask the Celtics, right? They won like 9 straight games as Pistons had lost God knows how many in a row, and they beat Boston in Boston. It's a game-to-game, day-to-day league. 50 points on 81% shooting. And by the way, he went 2 for 3 from 3-point range. So he was efficient from the 3-point line, albeit he only took 3 of them. I don't get it. I mean, this guy is arguably the best player in the league. I'm honestly leaning towards Giannis as the best player in the league. I'd say it's probably Giannis, LeBron, KD, Steph. Probably give Steph the advantage over KD slightly because I think he's a better overall player and has won more championships, MVPs, and all that. And I rank him higher all time than KD, but we can argue about that. But Giannis is arguably the best player in basketball, and nobody's talking about him for MVP. Why is that? It's Embiid. It's Jokic. Is there like a fascination with, a re-fascination with the big man now? I got no problem against that, but Giannis is 6'11". He's pretty big. He is averaging 29-11. I don't get it. Just I need somebody to explain this to me because it's reminding me a lot of the LeBron stuff. How people said, "Oh, Westbrook's the MVP and Harden and Kawhi's the MVP." I'm like, are you guys even watching this guy in Cleveland or this guy in Miami right now? He's like scoring 30 a night and getting triple doubles and winning a million games and taking his team to the finals every year. That kind of matters. There's got to be a little bit of value in that, right? I don't know. I'm just saying. All right. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up Live tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. By the way, also be sure to catch follow Carving It Up on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or friend on Facebook, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, share, comment, helps the channel grow exponentially. And if you've been listening to the Carving It Up podcast, we appreciate you guys as well. You've been listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. So until tomorrow evening, hope everybody's a great evening tonight on Thursday. See y'all tomorrow. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. I'm out of here. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.